Welcome to Collections of Cinema. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Collections of Cinema. With me, your host, Danny, and your other host. That's where you say your name.
Wavy.
Input name here.
Collections of Cinema, the sophisticated podcast for lovers of film and cinema.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is there something over my face, or is it just like a weird shadow?
No, that's just a mark off the camera.
Okay.
As Marty always says, and you know who I mean with Marty, Martin Scorsese, good friend of ours, or more of mine. As he always says.
I mean, I introduced you to him, so.
You made him cry. As Marty always says, cinema is something to be experienced at the theater, and Marvel is no cinema. Quote end.
Ouch.
No.
That's harsh.
It is harsh. That's what he said, and he got criticized for that comment a lot, that he doesn't consider Marvel.
Honestly, as he should have. He should have been criticized for that. As a filmmaker and an artist, especially to put down other filmmakers and artists for making films that they want to make.
Right, especially he has kids and they grew up probably watching Marvel stuff. So yeah.
And it's massive. It's not like people don't like it.
Yeah. I think it's more the idea that spectacular blockbuster cinema like Marvel is kind of destroying the cinema landscape, in the sense that if you go to the movies, you want something big and not something like indie feeling small.
Yeah, but it's also keeping cinemas alive.
In a way, it does.
I think it completely keeps cinemas alive. If we didn't have things like Marvel movies that come out, also, 2 a year or whatever, I feel like cinemas would die because people go to the cinema to see those movies.
But I feel like also like horror movies are a big reason why they're like why people go to the movies to see a horror movie with other people, to experience movies, to scream, gasp, be afraid together. It's also fun. Okay, today we are talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, or Dead Reckoning as it was renamed afterwards.
You know what's funny?
It's the what?
Last night when we were watching the movie, there was the actor that I was trying to find, because I was like, I know him, and I figured I knew him from Revenge, and I was right. But when I looked at IMDb, I was like, why is he not listed in this movie? And I realized after the movie, because at the end of the movie, it says, like, before the credits, like, Mission Impossible and then Dead Reckoning.
Yeah.
It says that. And I was like, oh, I was looking at Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Oh, okay.
Of course it was not listed in the cast.
So this is the 7th installment of the Mission Impossible film franchise, which is fucking nuts. The last one, or the one before, came out in 2018, Fallout. And again, it stars Tom Cruise, obviously, and Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Palm Clementine, and a lot of other people. The movie struggled a lot because of COVID. The movie, they had to shut down multiple times. They had to. There was this one clip released during COVID where Tom Cruise was shouting at production assistants or whatever, because they were not keeping the masks on, and he was shouting at them for compromising the whole production. But the movie came out eventually in 2023. Had a budget of 291 million.
Wow.
And made almost 600 million back.
Wow.
In the box office. So yeah, a huge success for the franchise. And which is crazy to think that movie, that's the 7th installment, and it still goes so fucking hard.
Yeah, and I mean, I was watching these movies as a kid.
Right. Yeah. Like it's
that's insane. When was the first one?
I just want to look. The series is based on a TV series. The first one came out in 1996. It was directed by Brian De Palma, and which was not.
Yeah, so I didn't watch it when I was 5, but
I watched it pretty early. I think I watched it when I was 8 or 9.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first one we probably watched when I was like 10 or 11, something like that.
And it was, or it is based on a TV series from 1966. And it was never like Brian De Palma was never intentionally creating something to be a series, like one of the biggest movie series ever. And honestly, you can only compare Mission Impossible, I feel like, to James Bond in the scope and scale of the movies, even though they're different. Obviously,
I would argue that Mission Impossible is better. Sorry.
See, that's a bold statement.
I know.
Mission Impossible is,
but it's one I stand by.
More of a spectacle, like this insanely stunt-driven set pieces, while James Bond is like very typical spy. Even though with Daniel Craig, it also evolved into a bigger like stunt-driven set piece.
Yeah.
The movie came out in 2023, and again, it follows Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, and he has to. Yeah, the plot is, pretty straightforward again, but it kind of brings back some characters. It goes back in time a little bit, or they basically tell you a little backstory of something that happened in the past, and this character comes back, this evil guy, and it's all about a key or two keys, essentially, that they hunt. Because
two halves of one key.
Right. They hunt to unlock something, but they don't really know where it is, what to unlock. But they know that this key is the key to control or destroy the entity, which is like an artificial, gone rogue computer software, basically, that evolved into something very dangerous. And at some point in the movie, they realize that they don't fight against humans anymore, but they fight against this algorithm that predicts basically almost every outcome of their actions. And so they have to start operating offline and also against something they would usually do, or to try to, do stuff that they maybe not would do if they wouldn't fight against an virus or like a AI.
The one thing that I had a hard time figuring out was so the bad guy, right, Gabriel, in the airport, they find out that like everything that Tom Cruise is seeing through his glasses, plus the stuff that they're seeing on the surveillance cameras, like when you see him, he wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Was that the AI thing trying to like fuck with them, like the rogue software, or
Maybe.
does he somehow? Because it felt to me the whole movie like Gabriel kind of was part of that.
What do you mean, part of what?
Yeah, a part of the whole AI thing going rogue.
And I don't think so. I think
like it felt like he knew so much about like
obviously he was basically in contact of the AI the whole time.
Okay.
The AI was telling him. We only saw glimpses of that, but when like in the last basically bigger scene where they were on the train at the one Palm Clementine, I think, opens the casket where he was sleeping in or whatever, he did that. I feel like that gave us a little glimpse into how he communicated to the AI and how it tells him things like what he's supposed to do and all the different outcomes, but the way for him to go through to be successful.
Exactly, because he knew so many things. Like in the one scene where he said there are only a few outcomes to this, and one of you has to die, to the two women.
Yeah, exactly.
So he knew that by the end of the night, one of them had to die in order for anything else to work.
That's why he was always steps ahead, because he knew exactly what they were doing, and he knew exactly that he has to just navigate through the different scenarios. And
so essentially the way that Simon Pegg and Luther, I don't know the guy.
Ving Rhames.
Benji and Luther. The way that they communicate with Ethan, the AI was communicating with Gabriel.
Yeah. And they were always compromised.
Did we ever see that though? I feel like we didn't
we didn't really see it.
The AI communicating with
that's
Gabriel.
Why I said it was.
So are we just supposed to assume?
It was hinted at. It was hinted at, and the way Gabriel talked basically gave it away multiple times. Where he's like, "Okay, I know everything," and he said it multiple times. I know everything about you. I know, and then he goes into the details of people to fuck with them or to get stuff out of them. And that kind of felt very unique to the franchise, because usually they worked against time, or they worked against just one person that was evil or had a plan
or like an organization,
the typical stuff. But this time it felt a little cooler because it started as that, but then in the middle of the movie you kind of recognized that they were compromised the whole fucking time, and then it even got so far that the AI intentionally compromised their communication and talked as them, where they fucked with,
when it took over Benji's voice,
right?
basically.
Which is kind of cool because that's something that is very realistic. It's not something that is not.
Well, I think
possible.
especially like watching this one now versus when it came out. I mean, sure, there was already that like kind of aspect. The whole AI thing was coming out, but now with like ChatGPT and like Gemini and all of these like really high-end AI models, and you just think about how very realistic this movie feels now compared to even just 2 years ago, which is nuts.
Yeah. No, I really like how they develop the story where it makes it feel very relevant.
It's also, I feel like the fact that when was it filmed? Because you said they were having
during
struggles
COVID,
with COVID,
so
like
think
2020, 21?
Right, that's when they started production, I assume, with here.
Which is
2021, 2022.
Okay, so that's also, think someone knew something when they were writing that, and when, because that was just the filming, writing it, who knows when they wrote it. And so that's also kind of cool to think the almost predictions of how AI was advancing.
Yep.
And I'm sure there was information about that stuff already, but that's still kind of
things like that
cool.
already were possible. Like certain things were possible already.
But the fact that it got so, it felt so accurate.
Yeah.
And it had just been a couple of years since it's been written.
No, it's really nice. The only thing I didn't like, but the only thing I was not like a super fan of was this like weird imagery of the entity. I guess, this animation, this almost eye-looking thing. That didn't bother
me so much.
No, it didn't bother me, but for me, you didn't need something like that. I get why they put it in to make it grasp for audience, to have something to, okay, this is this thing.
The weird thing is, the only thing that bothered me is that they called it the entity. Like, I didn't like that, because entity feels to me like a demon, like a, like a ghost, which I kind of get. That's what they're trying to. Sure, it's a ghost. It's, and the one guy in the submarine said phantom, so they're like hinting at that kind of, but I don't know. That was kind of a little bit of a disconnect for me. Like, every time that they would talk about it, like Luther and Benji, and Luther would say the entity is doing this, the entity is doing that, I'd be like, it doesn't feel right to me. Like, I feel like there could have been a better name for it to make it felt almost a little like cheesy. Silly.
Every time Tom Cruise said the entity, it felt a little weird. Yeah. Because the name is,
like they're trying to force it to sound cool. Like, that's what it sounded like. And the other thing that bothered me was the car chase scene felt way too long. And I remember that the first time. I remember that the first time we watched it. Like, it's cool, sure. I'm just not a big fan of car chases, honestly. That's not my thing.
I honestly really like it.
But, I'm not a Fast and Furious fan either, so.
No, I really like it, and they had the same in Fallout. They had that's always a big part. That car chase is always a big part of those.
I really like it from the moment they get in the small Fiat until the end of it. Really that's a really cool part of it. But I feel like leading up to it, it's too long for what it is.
Yeah, and it's funny because it feels very much like the last Fast and Furious, because there was also
in Rome,
set piece, and they did a chase through and destroyed half of Rome or Vatican or whatever. The thing is, I like it. I'm a fan of that stuff, but it could have been a little tightened. But I still like it because it's all practical.
I wish it would have been less of the first half of it and more of the second. Like, if they would have done more of the way that I don't know what shifted there. But from that moment that they got into that really tiny Fiat, it seemed like, I don't know, it was more...
I feel like it was more different, because usually you see then like the really cool cars, and that's what they drive first. Are they driving a BMW?
I don't
remember. But I feel like they're driving a BMW and the Hummer or the massive Jeep that Palm Clementine drives. It just feels more like, okay, they're having now a massive problem. Not only are going to get followed by police and Palm Clementine, but also they're in this small, tiny car that drives fast, but is still, considerably slower compared to the other ones. Obviously, the Mission Impossible movies are known for their stunt work, and in the last couple
specifically
of
Tom
years,
Cruise's stunt work.
In the last couple of entries of the series, they tried to do more and more crazy shit. And in this one, I mean,
I feel like they always try to top the craziest stunt in the previous movie, which is fun.
I mean, in this one, one of the bigger ones that was also like part of the whole teaser trailer and
motorcycle,
it's the motorcycle driving off the cliff, which
so cool.
is cool. But I feel like the train sequence is even cooler.
I always love train sequences. I don't know what it is about just action movies that take place on a train.
Yeah, it's so,
I really
it's
like
so
them.
Insane, like the
think of like Bullet Train. That movie's fucking awesome.
Even though it was shot on green screen, but this
one,
but
still, I just the environment of being on a train because I feel like the stakes are so high and the
fast and just falling off.
You can't really get off, and you have no escape plan. It's just
and they did basically everything. They did on top in the train.
In that last scene with the train when it's like piece by piece falling off the cliff, and they're just like, you feel the tension and you feel the fuck. When is it like? When are they finally gonna have to finally make it to the end? The coolest
shit is that they rebuilt the train itself, like the first part. What is it called? The where the steam comes out, the locomotive.
Sure.
Or
I don't
feel
know
like
train
that's the word.
Words.
But they rebuilt that, and then they actually crashed it off the bridge. So that is all real.
Cool.
There's no CG, and there's so much cool practical stuff in there. Even when they're hanging in the upside down train, the department or compartment. They did so much practical and as someone who likes action movies a lot, and someone who I don't know, is fond of real stunt work, I very much appreciate the Mission Impossible movies for doing that, and obviously for Tom Cruise for pushing to do that. Like even the last one, Fallout, they did so much cool shit, and that and then before that, Ghost Protocol.
Was it this movie? I feel like it was where when we saw it in the theater, Tom Cruise came on the screen first and said something, right? It was this one, or was it the last one?
Nah, I feel like it was that one.
I thought it was this one because I feel like it was post-COVID.
The thing is, it was
because he was so excited to get people back in the theater, so that was like it
was either that one or it was it was either that one or it was Top Gun 2.
Oh, that was Top Gun.
I think it was Top Gun.
That was Top Gun.
Because that was last week. That was last year.
That was Top Gun. Yeah, no, you're right. But either way, I mean, Tom Cruise has said before he likes doing his own stunts because he feels like it brings a different sense of adrenaline to the people watching it. Because movies nowadays, it's like, about practical effects. It's not like, watching movies 20 years ago where even if there were stunts, it felt so you would get adrenaline just watching it because it's something you're like, whoa, how did they do that? But now it's like, about all the capabilities of CG and practical effects and things like that. And so it kind of, like, for me at least, watching certain movies, it's hard to, like in a horror movie, it's hard to scare me. It's hard to get that adrenaline rush because that they're fine. It's weird. It's a weird way to, but I don't know, with these ones, I definitely get that feeling of like, I actually feel tense in my seat. And I feel because that most of the stunts they're doing themselves or at least to an extent. And whenever Tom Cruise is on, I'm like, fuck, that man literally did that shit. And it's, I don't know, it brings a whole new feeling.
Jumped off the cliff. I want to say 11 times or 12 times.
It was a pretty high number.
Yeah. And that alone is fucking crazy.
Like for me, if I even did that one time, I would be like, okay, never again. Like, we're good. Yeah. And dude was just like, let's do it again.
It's so crazy. I'm trying to find it right now.
It's so crazy.
Filming. Yeah, I can't find it right now.
I mean, even the one, it wasn't in this movie. Was it Ghost Protocol with the plane? Where he's on the side of the plane? Or was that Fallout?
Which one?
Where he's on the side of the plane?
Oh, I feel like that was Fallout.
I know that we saw it together in theaters, so I'm trying to think of the timeline.
Fallout, I'm pretty sure.
Because Ghost Protocol came out before I moved here.
No, I think it was Fallout because there was this sixth one, and that was with Henry Cavill. I'm pretty sure that was Fallout.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember that one. Like, the only thing I get why they do it, but the only thing I don't like about how action movies and specifically Mission Impossible is promoted is that they always put the biggest stunt in the trailer. And so it's like, the biggest stunt.
But that's
where
how
they
get
could
the people.
Yeah, I know, but at this point people know there is something. People know that he's gonna do something batshit crazy. And couldn't they just like kind of tease it without showing it?
What they could do is they could do like a little like 30 seconds or 1 minute teaser where they maybe just talk about it. Whether you see Tom Cruise and maybe Christopher Quere, the director, just sit down and talk about it.
But I also feel like you could easily in the trailer do like a glimpse of it's about to, like what's about to happen, because that also builds the suspense. And it's I have to see that because I want to see what he does. Yeah. But I feel like the trailer kind of, I wish that they wouldn't show the full crazy stunt in the trailer, because they did that with all of them, I feel like. Yeah. But still fucking badass. And it's really cool to watch the making of, like watching them, how they did the stunt and how he just like rode a motorcycle off this mountain cliff. And it's so cool.
Yeah. That's a fun part. On one of the later screen tests for the film, Edgar Wright, the director, asked Christopher McQuarrie about a specific audio cue that McQuarrie felt obvious upon Wright's question, but realized that the audience hadn't noticed it, which led him and Cruise to change the entire movie. So there was some audio cue. I assume it had to do with the entity, but that was probably changed because of Edgar Wright and Tom Cruise, and also Christopher McQuarrie said that based on that input or feedback, the movie was much better.
Okay.
That's kind of interesting. There is so much technically to talk about it.
It's such a fun movie.
It's a very fun movie.
I also really like action movies, but they have to have a good story. And if the story, or at least good, believable acting, and I feel like the Mission Impossible movies, the stories can be fairly complex.
Yeah.
They're not like super boring action movies in the sense of the story. And I like that because I don't like action just to have action.
The train sequence, the plane sequence you just mentioned was in Rogue Nation, actually. That was in
Rogue Nation.
Part 5. Yeah. Part 5. Yeah.
But we saw that one together. What year did that come out?
That was in 2015.
Oh. Then we didn't see that together.
I don't think so, no.
Interesting. I remember us. Okay.
Yeah, Fallout was 2018. And one of the bigger pieces was the Halo jump that Tom Cruise did a couple of times over Paris. I don't know if he did it over Paris, but in the movie it's over Paris. One thing that I posted yesterday that we watching the movie on Threads, and someone posted that it's still incredible that some people that the movies are still so much fun and actually good. And I feel like because I thought about it too, it's the 7th part, and usually if you look at movie series, they get progressively worse. But with this series, you could even argue they get better. Sure, there are some that are not as great, but overall, I feel like those movies have improved compared to the first ones, even though I love the first ones. The second one is not my favorite, but there's still some cool things.
I love all of them.
But
they're so good.
I feel like I thought about it. And like, I feel like the reason why they're still so good is, first of all, they give a shit. They don't make them. And you can see how much effort Tom Cruise puts into those movies by just doing those insane stunts. But they make them because they love them. They all love them. And
you can tell. You can feel it. You can feel it while you're watching it, that these people, these actors are so into this movie and they're so into what they're doing. And everybody seems to like really be excited to be a part of it. It's not like none of it feels fake.
Right, and with Christopher McQuarrie, he did now 3 of those movies, and the 4th one is coming out actually in a few weeks. They found a director who also gives a shit. He understands the world, he understands what it stands for, the stakes, and he gives a shit. Yeah. And I feel like the biggest point of that is they need to make money back, but I feel like the biggest reason is to go to the theater and have fun.
Yeah.
And that's why those movies are the best to watch at a packed theater, I feel like. Because people grasp when things are happening. Those fucking stunt works, there are some scenes like the train sequence at the end of this film is fucking insane. And it's so cool to see actors doing that shit. And yeah, I don't know. It's so cool. I really like it. I would go to movie of the week.
Yep. Movie of the week.
I'm not even looking at the movies we watched because the movie of the week is Thunderbolts.
Okay, but I want to know what the other movies we watched because that still interests me, even if that is also my pick. I want to know what else we watched.
Okay. We watched, actually we didn't watch that many movies, but we watched, wait, let me go back a week so that would be here. We watched Drop, Thunderbolts, and that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow, okay, then Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
I mean, Drop was fun, but it wasn't like, wow.
Yeah. Drop, I liked it, but I hated it. No, Thunderbolts.
You liked it, but you hated it.
Yeah, Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is the last Marvel movie that just basically came out. It's basically just came out 2 days ago when we recorded that movie, the podcast. And it's about the bad anti-heroes or the anti-heroes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe compared to, what is the DC thing? Fuck. 2 movies. One of James Gunn and...
Yeah, I don't know. Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad, thank you. Yeah, so compared to that, basically. But...
that's so much better.
See, I liked the second Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I did too.
But it felt like a regular superhero movie. While this one... It's so funny because people are really raving about that movie right now. And the main reason why is because they actually give the whole scope of the movie, or basically just the villain alone, they give him humanity. They give him something where you can relate instantly. And people are like, I just went to the cinema to have a good time, but I cried.
Yeah.
I felt heard. I felt understood. I felt, something...
Yeah.
Something.
Well, and you see his character develop from, a lot of times it's just like there's the superheroes and there's the villain. But in this movie, you see, without spoilers, you see the person turn to the villain, where it's like you start out already liking their character. And then you already have this like empathy for them. And then you see the change. You see how they get pulled into this villainous side. Yeah. And the reasons behind it. And so it's like all in one instead of like, let's have a movie about this and then let's make a second movie about the beginnings of the, it's just, it's a really cool way to do it. And the themes of like mental health and anxiety and maybe even like some imposter syndrome. I mean, there's just a lot of aspects Depression, that get touched on without being said. And the visual alone of how they did that is very, very well done.
And what I mostly liked about that movie was that it stood alone. It stood on its feet. It didn't rely on any prevalent knowledge, even though it's awesome if you have seen all or most of the other stuff, but you can just watch the movie on its own and you would still get it and you would still feel something. Plus, all the multiverse stuff, they didn't rely on just, hey, there's a cameo, there's a cameo. Technically, there was not a massive cameo in the movie. And it didn't need it because the story and the characters were so well done and they worked so well together. And also...
And there was just enough exposition where you at least understood where the characters were coming from. So it's like, with Florence Pugh's character about her sister, they mentioned a few times that her sister died.
She was the most fleshed out character because she stood in the front of all.
Yeah.
But even with other side characters like Wyatt Russell's character, what's his character's name? The bad Captain America.
Yeah.
I don't know right now what's his name, but
John
John Walker, right? He also, you got some backstory provided by some little comments, and it was enough to understand his character, where he comes from, and also seeing just the pain. You typically don't see the human side of those superheroes, but this movie is all about the human side. It's all about, hey, we all got fucking pain to work through. We all got pain from our past.
Yeah. Well, and it's focused, all of the characters have done bad things. And so it's like a redemption story too for every single character. And it's really cool. Yeah. And also Florence Pugh. I mean, come on. She's brilliant.
That woman
she's amazing.
A superstar. She carries the movie so easily. Like it's nothing. Yeah. And it's so well written.
I feel like that's her in every role though. She carries every single movie I've ever seen her in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great movie. I really liked it. I was very surprised. I didn't have any expectations. I didn't really know anything about the story other than those characters were in it. And it's also good to see Sebastian Stan as Winter Soldier. I really like his character. He's one of my favorites still going on from the, I don't know how many iterations of the MCU there are now. Also, David Harbour as the Red Guardian. He's like one of the comic reliefs in the movie. And this is also something that has been done really badly in some past Marvel movies where the comedic beats were off, like Thor, the last Thor movie comes to mind, where it's this heavy scene about cancer and she's dying, blah blah, and then they just throw in jokes just to throw in jokes, and it just felt super off and weird. While this movie,
the thing is that would work with Deadpool, but that didn't work with Thor.
Right, and also not the heavy subject matter, how it was presented to you, because it was presented in a very serious, dramatic undertone. While this movie balances this so well, there's this really, and it also gives room to breathe. Like basically the last third of the movie is this fight against this massive villain, even though he's not really a villain, but this villain character, and there's still so much room to breathe and not just fighting like in other Avengers Marvel movies, but it's a lot of struggle, a lot of grasp, like struggle that that people know, that people deal with. And it was very refreshing movie. Really liked it.
I did too. It felt really, I don't know, it was engaging the entire time. There was never a moment where I felt like, okay, it's dragging on, or this scene could be shorter, or this could be left out. Everything worked really well together. Yeah. And the only thing we talked about this, the only thing I didn't like had nothing to do with the movie. It had to do with the people
behind us.
Yeah. There was this like group of women who, I swear to God, they have never heard a joke before in their entire life. Like not even a knock knock joke, because every little tiny joke that was told in the movie, like every little tiny bit of comic relief, they were howling with laughter and snorting with laughter. Like it was the funniest thing they've ever heard in their entire life. And, sometimes I find that very endearing, but if it's for every single joke in the movie, I was like, oh my dog, just shh.
Yeah,
they were so obnoxious. I have a feeling it's because it was mostly when David Harbour would say something, and I have a feeling that they all had a crush on David Harbour, which, okay, get it, total dilf, but I don't know. It seemed like a little too much.
Yeah, I agree. Some people, I don't know. I like, that's what I like about this the theater going, because it's a communal experience. People go there because they know the characters, they love the characters, they know the lore or whatever, and they go there specifically to see those characters. And it's fun to, I don't know, there's this energy in the room, obviously, but sometimes people, get a little overexcited. And the thing is, it's fine, but sitting right in front of them was a little distracting sometimes.
No, the thing is, like I said, I enjoy it. I enjoy that aspect of going to the cinema because you're sharing the experience with people. And there were moments that were kind of laugh out loud funny, but it was every single moment that was kind of like, it was more of a chuckle worthy moment. You're not even listening because you're
I am listening. I'm
typing
sorry.
on your computer right now.
I am listening.
So I'm talking to a wall.
No, you're not. You're talking to the people. And that's it, everybody. No, technically we have a Letterboxd review for...
He didn't even acknowledge the last thing I said, so you know he's not listening.
I'm sorry. Technically we do the Letterboxd review, but the thing is there are not that many funny ones because people love that movie, obviously.
Yeah, I can't help with that either, because every time I try to open Letterboxd on my phone, it looks like this, where it's just dark and it's like that weird...
What browser are you...
Chrome.
Don't use fucking Chrome. Disgusting.
Chrome.
Okay. People, let us know what you think about the Mission Impossible series. Let us know if you've seen Thunderbolts already. If yes, then let us know what you think.
Yeah, and if no, even if you're not a huge Marvel fan, or, I mean, I guess it's good to be a fan of superhero movies, but if you haven't seen all the Marvel movies, you should still go see it, because it's kind of standalone. They make hints at things where if you know what they're talking about, it's like, okay, cool, I know what you're talking about. But you could watch it without knowing anything about the Marvel universe.
It's a very enjoyable, highly enjoyable movie. That said, please subscribe. Please rate the podcast wherever you can rate the podcast. Please comment, subscribe on YouTube, like the video podcast on YouTube. And if you want to support us more, head over to our Patreon, where Joe is still currently our only member.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe. And tune in the next time.
Yep. Bye. Goodbye.